What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 91 of the Steam Deck podcast, Split Screen Games weekly gaming podcast, all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford
Hello, hello.
and Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Welcome back, boys. We got a fun one here. We got some more hardware to talk about.
Yeah,
Just
it's
not the Steam Deck.
well, you could be confused by thinking it's a Steam Deck. If you looked at this from a distance, maybe you were slightly drunk or you didn't have your glasses on, you might think that the Zotac Zone is a Steam Deck.
Oh, we are talking about the Steam Deck. Oh, you're right. Sorry, yeah, looking at it now. You're right.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. I mean, I guess this is become par for the course these last couple months. It's that every couple weeks we get another competitor deciding to try to throw their hat in the ring and see if they can get a piece of this handheld PC pie. And the Zotac Zone is the latest here, and like you said, it definitely has uh a very, very similar look to our beloved Steam Deck. But I thought it was interesting that, like, in the Verge article from Sean Hollister that we're going to be referencing throughout, the kind of subhead was that it has elements of Valve, Sony, and Microsoft all in one.
It's quite interesting, this, because Zotac is not a company that I'd like. It's not like Asus to have the ROG line of things. Zotac do
Right.
like GPUs, and then they do like small PCs, and they do sort of like some preview stuff, but they don't do like full, complete, like all-in-one packages like laptops and things like that. My first graphics card was a Zotac 1063 gigabyte, which is still knocking about downstairs somewhere. But it's just, yeah, it's interesting that Zotac are the next ones to tackle this and to do it in a way that's seemingly sort of like in some ways above and beyond what the more experienced competitors are doing, but in some ways less so.
The Zotac do sell now those little mini PCs. I don't know if you've
Yes, they
seen them,
do.
Matt.
Yeah, the tiny ones.
So
Yeah.
my guess is it's a repackaging of one of their existing little mini PCs that
Yeah.
they are putting now into this form factor that looks like a cross
It's
between a Steam Deck and an ROG Ally.
yes, it's interesting that when I was sort of buying my OLED, a friend of mine was like, "I want to buy your Steam Deck," and I was like, "It's not for you. You've exclusively told me. So you told me you like would only exclusively use it in docked mode. You're not going to get the full experience. You're better off like building a smaller PC." Then I saw the Zotac. I can't remember what it's called now. It's the teeny tiny one, whatever it's called. I saw one of those and I was like, "Oh, that's exactly what he wants. He wants a small PC that sits on under his TV and plays PC games and Steam games, gives him access to that library without being this big thing you have to build and maintain and things like that." So I looked at this, but the problem with these small PCs and all of the sort of the NUCs, NUCs, whatever you want to call them, is they're very expensive. They're really cramming this technology in. They are, and I think these are like we're talking £1,000. Some of these sort of silent PCs that are capable of playing games that are Steam Deck quality. Sorry, in Steam Deck quality, which makes me wonder how much this is going to, or how they're sort of achieving a price here that people are going to be okay with, which is $800, considering they're then adding onto that a screen, some controllers, a battery. They're making it more portable. So yeah, I think it's impressive. I wonder if we're going to see that it's pared down versus those smaller computers.
I think probably those computers have discrete GPUs in them, from what I can see on their website and their
Mhm.
catalog. This is obviously using a AMD APU, so it seems to be a similar chip that we've seen in like the ROG Ally. It's the Ryzen 7 8840U. Last year's model was the 7840U, which is in the ROG Ally. So a
It's
slightly
also
newer
the
generation
same
of
chip
chip.
that's in the Legion Go from Lenovo.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it's. I would imagine we'll probably see Lenovo and other manufacturers shifting to this 8000 series chip from AMD this year. But it's interesting you mentioned the Lenovo Legion Go, because this thing is bigger than the Lenovo Legion Go, which I don't think the pictures really do it justice.
Does not look it, does it?
No, it doesn't. Because I think in your mind, you have in your mind that it looks like this. It looks like a Steam Deck. It's probably going to be similar dimensions and size to a Steam Deck, but this thing is massive. It's much, much larger than the Steam Deck, and it's larger than the Lenovo Legion Go.
Yeah,
If
it's
you really look at it and you look at the sticks, you can see the sticks actually do take up less space. Whereas on the Steam Deck, the sticks and the trackpads take up like most of that face. You can see on this, they're only like the bottom half, a little bit more than.
Yeah, there's, like, quite a bit of, like, extra real estate around the sides of
Mhm.
each of them, which is a little interesting. Yeah, I think the the breakdown we have here from The Verge is that it's 12 by 5.3 by 1.6 in inches, and then in millimeters it's 310 by 135 by 40. So it's big. It's
it's a full 10 centimeters wider than the Steam Deck. It's almost
Wow.
it's like a
Really?
third of an inch wider than the Steam Deck.
yeah, it's quite a bit larger. It does have a few other interesting little
Sorry,
tidbits.
do you mean millimeters? Sorry, do you mean centimeters?
Maybe millimeters,
Because
Millimeters.
10
centimeters
millimeters.
is
Millimeters.
huge. It's like that's a third of a ruler is how I think of
Yeah, no.
centimeters.
It's millimeters. Excuse us.
Okay.
Um, it does have a few other interesting little things, right? Like it's got the like dual trackpads and everything like you'd expect with the Steam Deck, like we said. A few of the kind of interesting things they called out were it does have Hall effect joysticks and triggers. It has two-stage adjustable triggers, which means that like they have like multiple click-ins, so and they're programmable.
So yeah, that's usually like you can have it as the full press, or you can swap it to like hair triggered, almost digital,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
It's like the
exactly.
Xbox Elite controller. They've got
Yeah.
switches on the back that allow them to toggle. It's not like software based like the PlayStation 5's DualSense controller where the game can control it. It's just you can make it like a digital trigger rather than like
Yeah.
a full analog
If you're
press
just like,
if you
I
want
want to
to.
quickly shoot, bing, 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 or
Mhm.
you might want to do something where like you actually do want to have that pull, that range of motion.
And then it's also got a 7-inch screen, which we didn't get to talk about. It's a AM OLED screen. AM OLED display, excuse me, is the name of the screen. I'm not familiar with this screen specifically. Do we know if it's been used in any
Well,
other?
AMOLED, a lot of phones are AMOLED.
Okay.
If that's what I actually can't see that, but if I'm right in reading that correctly, then I
About
think a lot
about
of the
halfway
iPhones
down
have
in
been
the
AMOLED for a
article
while.
about halfway down in the article that we're looking at, there's a graphic from uh Zotac that's got like a bunch
Ah,
of the
yeah.
there's also a front facing camera, which is interesting.
That is
You could
interesting.
definitely see how that could be something that um gives it an edge, I guess,
Yeah, I
because
think it's just for unlocking the screen, I
Windows
think
Hello.
it's yeah, it's not gonna
that's the
I'm
only
not
feature. It
sure.
can't be accessed by a game.
I can't think of any games that would need it or that use a
Well,
front-facing camera in that
I
way
was
other than,
thinking
like,
of
streaming.
there's that game. It ended up getting ported to VR as well, but it worked off the webcam, and it was like anytime you blinked, it would like move time forward. I
Oh,
can't remember the name
that's
of the game.
niche. Me neither, but
Um,
that is a niche way to add
there's
money to
games that
your
use
product,
cameras
you
though, you
know?
know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something. It's something. Um, so then there's also one other thing that I thought was interesting was there's actually a radial dial for like dialing in settings and stuff like that, which is like a nice little quality of life thing. I don't know if it's like, uh
We saw something like that on the Nova Legion Go as well. It had like a little jog wheel that could
yeah.
also then work as a mouse wheel.
No, sorry, I think the radial dial is around is it not around the sticks? I'm looking at the sticks, and there's that
Oh,
dial
is
seems
that
to be
what it
around
is?
there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Which
you're right.
I think you can do it on the Xbox Elite sort of thing where you can control the resistance, I think, of the sticks
Mhm.
maybe, which again, that's probably for pro gamers, who like, "I wanna have this, it can tinkered how I want it," and the other systems don't really offer that. They don't offer the trigger compatibility. They don't offer, customization, sorry. So it's like they seem to be aiming for a market here that wants to have that control. I'm thinking specifically of the Call of Duty audience purely because it's running Windows as well instead of anything else. So they're like, Windows doesn't run on anything other than Windows. Sorry, Call of Duty doesn't run on anything other than Windows.
Yeah, it could be. And I mean, I guess, right, like at that higher price point, trying to appeal to that more, hardcore audience that wants that granular level of control. Like, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think the biggest thing about it that feels off is that price point of like $800. It's hard to imagine why you would pick this over the OLED deck, which is 650.
There's
You know?
I think I struggled to see why to pick this over an Ally X as well because we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. We did see some more specs this last week. It's got a ginormous 80 watt hour battery in there.
Yeah,
It's gonna be significantly larger than what Zotac's got here. My
and the
guess
extra
is
RAM as well.
Yeah, so the Zotac battery is 48.5 watts.
yeah, so it's almost double the battery life you could probably expect on the ROG Ally X. There might be some performance gains or battery gains or efficiency
That's also
gains.
already smaller than the OLED deck, which is worth pointing out.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that Ally X, just like the Zotac, one of the things the Zotac really appealed to me with was the fact that it's got two USB-C 4 ports.
Mm,
The ROG Ally X also has that now. Gone away with that proprietary connector for external GPUs. You can now just plug them straight in. That's one thing I think that a lot of people will be interested in that the Steam Deck is still yet to offer is that external GPU support, because I would love to be able to dock my Steam Deck, plug in an external GPU,
yeah,
and then have the kind of experience of just using the Steam Deck's internal APU as just the CPU, and I've got this discrete graphics
yeah,
as powering something on my TV, and I can get a lot more oomph out of the thing.
yeah. And the Legion Go, sorry, the RG Ally, sorry, where it offered that before, the because of the proprietary like port, it was like £1,000 just to get the actual unit to then put the GPU in. So a friend of mine
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, when I go to LANs, I can just get one of these, plug it in." And then he was like, "Oh no, I can't because it now costs as much as my computer costs." Whereas like with the hopefully the new USB-C or whatever it's called, there's another word that
It's
they use.
USB-C 4, but the ROG Ally X also supports Thunderbolt.
Okay, that's not what I was thinking of, but there's a plug you can get.
There's
Okay,
Oculink, which is
that's probably what I'm
separate. That's a
thinking of.
different connector type. It's not
Right.
USB.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Ideally, I'd want Oculink. The screen, though, Pete, going back to that, my guess is this is the same display as we've seen used by the Steam Deck. Probably cut the same mother glass.
Yeah,
I
AMOLED
can't
is a Samsung
find
technology.
yeah, I can't find any, like, confirmation of that, but, yeah, it looks like that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably made by Samsung or LG or
It is made
BOD.
AMOLED is a Samsung technology.
It's Samsung, okay.
Yeah, it was first used, or sort of the earliest uses of it were like the first Samsung Galaxy S phone was like
Gotcha.
Yeah, but,
AMOLED, and
I know
since then
there's
they've all
there's
been AMOLED.
there's 3 manufacturers of the OLEDs, though. So there is, LG, BOD, and Samsung, and in the Steam Deck devices, it's Samsung or a BOD display. I think they may have got dropped BOD. I think Pete ended up with the BOD because all of the limited editions had BODs from what I can remember. Um, I think all OLEDs are like AMOLED these days for the most part,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, I think
Okay.
it means active matrix versus like passive matrix that the LCD displays used to
Okay.
have. But I think a lot of people don't bother using the AM anymore. Samsung have moved on to like QD OLED as well, like quantum dot OLED technology.
Yeah, that's the good
Um,
shit. That's the
yeah,
real good shit. That
that's the
when
really nice bright one.
there was a QD OLED, 34-inch ultra wide, um Alienware monitor that looks like just the tits of all monitors, and it went down from 950 down to 600, and I was really just like, "Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't need it." And I am glad that I didn't, because 'cause I'd feel like an idiot, but, it looked amazing.
Yeah, whereas, I don't know if you saw, this is a bit of a tangent, but talking about OLEDs, like LG have supplied the new OLED panel to the new iPad, and they basically use 2 panels on top of one another to
Mm,
get double the amount of light that
I
they
have
can emit.
seen this.
It's kind of mental that that's like the solution is to just put 2 of them in there and
2
it'll
of them
make
It's
in,
it twice
funny.
yeah.
as bright.
Speaking of which, the other kind of information we do have about this one is, like I said, it's 7-inch, 120 hertz. It won't support VRR, and it's looking at about 800 nits for brightness. So pretty bright. It's like it's a good screen.
Yeah, it's
Sounds like a
decent.
good screen, yeah. I mean, so it's the only other OLED handheld PC, right? Which
I think
I think
that's
is what
correct.
set
Yeah, right.
the Steam Deck as high as it does the Steam Deck OLED, is that OLED screen is just so good that it makes you wanna play games on it, and the same with the Switch OLED completely it redefined my relationship with the Switch, where I was like, "This is just it sits in the dock, it's just a console for me." That OLED came out and I was like, "No, I'm taking this everywhere, I'm using it for everything," and I prefer to play that in handheld for that reason.
No word as to whether this supports HDR though. Um, that's not been confirmed.
Mm.
My guess is it would. Windows has a pretty good HDR pipeline. So I can't see why an OLED display wouldn't support that, but we don't know what the brightness level for HDR would be. Presumably the 800 nits they're talking about is the maximum brightness, peak brightness for standard dynamic range content. So no idea what HDR is going to look like on this display if it's even supported at all.
Yeah, they haven't. So it says at the bottom here that some specs came over from Zotac that added a bunch of stuff in, and you'd think that'd be the kind of thing they would confirm. Maybe is, oh
Hmm.
yeah, it supports HDR, especially considering we know this is sort of a Windows thing that would be something that people maybe would assume or hope for. It's weird that like you don't just automatically get HDR with OLED, or at least properly supported HDR, because it does make a difference, really does.
What do you two think of this thing? Because there's some like I know the pictures that we got from the Taipei PC show are obviously pre-production devices,
Hmm.
but it doesn't. It looks cheap to me. Like it does not look like a premium
The
device. Like the
the
Yeah.
first
buttons
thing
look
that's
weird.
the first thing that stood out to me was it looks kind of chunky. And, like, I know we were
Yeah.
talking about how it's big, but, like, one of the things we always talk about as kind of being, I think, the saving grace of the Steam Deck is how ergonomic it is. Where, like, yes, it's large, it's a little heavy, right? It definitely feels a lot heavier than if you're holding a Nintendo Switch. But, for a lot of folks, it's more comfortable to hold because of the way that it, you know, um, adheres to the shape of your hand. Whereas this device looks like it has kind of a harder curved edge to it. I don't know if you guys
Yeah, which was a similar to the
right? Doesn't it
original
look
ROG. Yeah, the original ROG Ally had similar dimensions and even similar back paddle
Yeah,
buttons
there's
on
just
the
no
back.
grit. There's nothing to we said with Ben, didn't we? There's just nothing to hold on to,
and it
with
it
these
it
other
looks like
ones.
kinda angular in a way that it's like, "Ooh," like
The
I can
bottoms are sharp.
yeah, right? And it's like if it to me, it looks like it's like the worst of both worlds, where it's like it's the big and bulkiness, but it's that kind of like sharp, flat, angular
Mhm.
shape that
I
you get with
think
the
that
Joy-Con,
I
on
think
the
that
edge.
bottom angle is likely because there's a kickstand on it, which is a great feature, especially something of this size. And I wish the Steam
Definitely.
Deck had a kickstand for certain things. But I think maybe with that kickstand out, that angle at the bottom is so that it sits flush and there's no rocking or anything like that.
I can't see why there's any use for a kickstand when you can't remove the controllers. Like I get it on the Lenovo Legion Go because like I can take the controllers off and they act like
Bluetooth, though, you could
Joy-Cons.
connect to,
Yeah,
To
an
that's
Xbox
PC,
true.
watch
controller.
something, or you could be watching something, or like using it as like a media consumption device, or even just like you're playing something on a train or whatever. You don't want to be doing that. What you actually want to do is have it on the table in front of
Yeah.
you, but you want to still be holding it up, but you
I
don't want
think
to be actively in control of
particularly
it for 4 hours.
yeah, I totally agree, and I think particularly for folks who, like, are older or maybe disabled or, like, there are a lot of people who are, like, just holding something heavy like that in one position for hours is just not gonna be an option for you,
Mhm.
right? And, like, being able to,
Yeah.
like, pop up the kickstand and pull out a controller is
And God
certainly a
knows
lot
how
more
heavy this thing is.
accessible.
Yeah.
Presumably it's gonna be a bit of a chunky monkey.
The reason I think this looks cheap is a lot, I think, is the material and the color choice. So it's I know you said it's a pre-production thing and that blah blah blah, but that is a grey plastic, right? Do me a favor, and you can all play along at home. Google Zotac 4090 Trinity. Go on Google Images, and you will see an £1,800. If you're looking at the overclockers, 4090 graphics card that looks like a cheap grey plastic children's toy. And I've where I've been looking up graphics cards a lot recently, and I've been like, "Oh, these are like these big metal, industrial looking things." They've got like, and then Zotac comes out with this really weirdly curved grey plastic. Like it just makes it look
It does look
cheaper.
like it makes it look like, old. Like, it makes it look like
Ye-
very, like, of the early aughts,
Yeah,
where,
it's
like,
weird,
everything
isn't
had
it?
that kinda,
It's
like, faux chrome plastic look to it, like,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah, I hate that. The like fake silver triggers. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't
It
think that we're
reminds me of,
looking.
like, a Sony, like, DVD VHS player from, like,
Yeah.
2004, like
It looks like a very strange, like early, like MP3 player, or like the Zune, or not specifically that, but like
Mhm.
it's like a weird curved pebble,
Yeah,
like
like an old
Yeah.
Rio or a diamond.
yeah,
It
yeah,
does
yeah,
have a
yeah.
little bit of that flavor to it.
So that's why I look at this and I think this is how it's probably going to come out looking. And this, yeah, like you say, the silver, the plasticness of it, that D-pad doesn't look great. It looks like, well, there is so much of it that I'm like, that sounds really cool. And I think I'm glad they've done like the adjustable sticks, the adjustable triggers, things like that.
They're good
I then think,
ideas, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And putting touchpads on it, great, especially because Windows, like whenever I see my friends who have got ROG allies are like, oh yeah, let me just quickly do something real quick. And then we're like hitting the start button, going through their stuff, trying to like use Windows like as a touchscreen. It just doesn't work. So having those trackpads and having that option uh, is going to make this a more interesting, at least for me, a more sort of viable replacement for a Steam Deck over these other things. But then you think about the battery life, you think about the size of it, and there are those negatives, and the price of it. It just sort of starts to go, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, cool. Oh, no, okay, I'm not interested."
Yeah,
There's just too many good alternatives. Even if the
Mhm.
Steam Deck wasn't for you, if you definitely wanted a Windows device, I think the Lenovo Legion Go, it's a similar price point. It's got those like trackpads on there. I think I'd go for that over this. Or the ROG Ally X would be the device I'd go for with the 80 watt hour battery. I think that's the Windows handheld to beat at the moment. It doesn't have OLED, granted. If that's really what you want, then obviously that's not going to be one for you. But I think it comes down to Windows again for me. If Windows is what you really want, then there's a variety of devices out there now. But
Yes.
I think for
it is
me,
nice to
I
have an
don't
OLED
want that on a
option.
handheld.
I do think that that's kind of the
We've
biggest thing
we've
that
had
this has
that
going for
from
it.
Ioneo, and I kind of feel like the Ioneo devices look more handsome than this. They're
Yeah,
they're
I don't know.
similarly priced.
I feel
Especially
like
in that black
Ioneo
color,
is
it looks
such
more
a,
premium.
like Ioneo is such a weird one for me, though, just like we talked about it with Bob when he was on the show of just how many products they put out that, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't inspire a lot of confidence for me that, like, if something goes wrong with the device, you're gonna get
I mean,
support,
I'm more inclined to have confidence with Ioneo than I do with Asus at the moment. Like
Mhm.
the stuff that has been uncovered by like Gamers Nexus this last couple of weeks, and with their like piece on the returns and
Yeah.
replacements that they've done with the ROG
yeah.
Ally has really been damning, and I think they need to come out and do something in
I
response to that.
mean, I think to me, it just speaks more and more to why I wouldn't pick any of these over the Steam Deck, though, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
even if you want a Windows solution, it's like you could run Windows on your Steam Deck, and like, and if something goes wrong, you'll still probably get a better support situation from Valve, right? Like we know
Yeah.
that like it's not perfect, right? There's been plenty of stories that we've seen on like the subreddit and stuff like that of folks who have had a tough time, but like by and large, it seems like the support
Yeah.
there is consistent, at least.
And, the same place that this Zotac thing's being shown off, they're showing off another MSI Claw already. So even if you buy from one of the big boys, you're already like, "Oh, I'm left in the dust like 4 months later." I'm like, "Great, okay,
The
well,
MSI Claw thing, I think, is just a rebrand because it's like one of the Windows AI PCs now, but I think it's still
Okay,
got that
okay.
crappy Intel thing in there with the
Yeah,
Intel
yeah.
integrated graphics that were rough as hell.
Yeah, shame for that really, isn't it? Especially considering it was the most expensive one at the time, wasn't it, when it came out?
Oh, so are you two trading in your Steam Deck for one of these?
Yeah, I'm gonna
uh,
trade in 2 Steam Decks to get one of these. That's my plan.
yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
No, of course I'm not. You've heard me on this show many, many times say if it's got Windows on it, I'm not interested because Windows just isn't there. I love my Steam Deck. That's why we do a Steam Deck podcast. What I do like about this, though, by the way, the last thing I meant to say is you can get a full-sized SSD in it if you want
Which
to
you
upgrade
can in
it.
the ROG Ally
Yeah,
X.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, can you?
Yep.
I didn't realize they upgraded that. Okay. Yeah. My SD card's going to melt anyway, so I might as well put a
They've
fucking.
got a new SD card port on there as well.
Oh, okay.
I really think if you're listening to this and you really want a handheld PC and it's not the Steam Deck for some reason, but you still love listening to the Steam Deck podcast, first of all, thanks for listening. Second of all, don't buy the Zotac Zone. I really think the ROG Ally X is probably your best choice. Your second best choice is the Lenovo, I think,
Mhm.
I think buying from one of those bigger companies is probably a safer bet.
Yeah, and again, right? Like it's just I think to jump in on a untested device that doesn't really have much going for it over the competition, it's like I just don't see. I think the biggest question for me is like, why even come out with this product if you're not going to try and shake things up a little bit more?
Because, I mean, what if they can just sell enough and they make a little bit of profit and you're searching for a graphics card or a mini PC or something and you happen to see it and you're just like, oh, I like Zotac. I'm going to pick one of these up.
Yeah. And
I mean,
then
like, who is that market though? How many of those people exist? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems odd to me, and that's not to say that, you know, maybe it makes sense for
It's
them, right? I don't know what the margins of a hardware business are really, but like, it seems very odd to me to essentially be like, what if we made a similar, very similar device to our competitors as a less popular company?
That is the the pre-built PC market, right? That's like you can go
Sure.
and buy the Corsair one, you can go and buy the Zotac one, you can go and buy the Alienware one, you can go and buy the la 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 la. Like they're all the same parts, just packaged slightly differently with different cooling and different things like that. And I think maybe where before we were like, oh, it's cool seeing how this market is gonna come up. People are gonna be fighting to get all this stuff. Maybe what we actually get in a few years' time is, oh, it's the pre-built market, and we're just getting every person's coming out and
Yeah.
slapping their name on the same thing in a different
And, like,
shell. I
fair
hopefully
enough, but
don't.
I just don't think there's a future in that, right? Like, I feel
Yeah,
like
but we'll see.
eventually that has to I don't know. I don't I can't imagine that too many of these companies stay in this business if they don't innovate, right? Like, I think when the Ally came out, like, that was, like, an interesting alternative because it presented something different, right? But now that you have 3, 4 other devices that are essentially the same thing, but with a company with less marketing power is just like, okay, like what's the end goal there, right? Like how many of these do you need to sell to be profitable
Mm.
and warrant its creation, you know?
I mean, that's I and Neo do it every year. They release 3 of them, right? And they're still going. So
Yeah, I guess
More than
so.
3, like,
yeah,
you just look at, like, everything they put out, it's crazy, but
3 per category. One folding, one dual screen, one normal
slide in.
one. 3 of those each. Sliding, got them all. We've got them all.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so we're going to talk about Moonlight getting HDR support in just a second here. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the Steam Deck podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of June. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobe, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all the real to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. And they are Nintendo Noise and the Flip Screen Games podcast. There you go. If you want to go check them out, if you want to write into the show, if you want to get involved and keep the conversation rolling between episodes over on Discord, you can find links to all that and much, much more over on our website, flipscreen.games. Head over there, click on some stuff. However you choose to get involved and show your support, it helps us out a lot more than it costs you. However you choose to get involved, head over there, click on some stuff, and I said that already. I don't know why I ran it back. I guess I'm like in a time loop there. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's more things to say. No, nope, guess not.
Yeah.
All right,
It's because
let's
you've added
back to the show.
something new into it. That's what it is. You added in the 2 shows, therefore you're like, "What the
Throw me off.
whoa." Yeah.
I'm
Pete,
like
before you
I'm like a
start this
robot in binary, and then they threw a
yeah,
2 in there, and I'm like,
yeah.
whoa, I don't know.
Before you, start this next segment, I'm gonna take a deep breath for a reaction quickly. Just
Okay, all right, okay. Our next story is that Moonlight is getting HDR support.
yeah, boy. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for fucking forever. Since I got the OLED, I've been like, yeah, let's do it. And then I've been waiting and I update and I wait and I update and I download the sort of like the nightly build from like 4 months ago where it's turned on, but it doesn't quite work properly and it doesn't work quite well on the TV. And I'm waiting for a stable release. Here we are. Finally, I can have full HDR streaming from my PC on my OLED Steam Deck and on my TV downstairs, and I can actually enjoy it properly. My only issue is that my monitors aren't really that good at HDR, and you have to specifically in Windows set the HDR levels for each device. So what I'd have to do is set like a specific setting for the OLED Steam Deck, I guess, or pick one. It's quite complicated. I'm going to work it out eventually, but at least it's there. At least now we can have like the a game like No Rest for the Wicked I've been playing recently is now going to look incredible on my TV downstairs as opposed to being just slightly washed out and a bit more grey than on the actual OLED Steam Deck. But yeah, banging, cracking, sorted. Anyone
Real,
else?
I, first of all, I just want to say I'm very excited for you. I'm very
Thank you.
happy for you, buddy. I'm glad that you're getting what you need here. Um, so t- talk to me about this real quick because I'm familiar with Moonlight, but what I wasn't familiar with is it says Moonlight it gets streaming via Sunshine. What's Sunshine? Is Sunshine
So
an additional layer, or is that a totally different program?
so Moonlight was designed. So okay, so Moonlight is a client for NVIDIA game streaming. NVIDIA game stream is you not I think you stream the game from your PC using that to NVIDIA, blah, blah, blah. Moonlight hijacks that as a client. So instead of using a video game stream, which they shut down on as the client, you use Moonlight instead. However, you have to have an NVIDIA GPU to be able to use Game Stream. So Sunshine was set up as a way for anyone, whether you've got NVIDIA, you've got AMD, you've got Intel, I guess, I don't know who does, to be able to stream to Moonlight. And now, because I think they've got rid of Game Stream entirely on NVIDIA anyway, it just shut down. Now Sunshine is like the streamer, and Moonlight is the client. Now Sunshine has been able to do HDR this whole time, and you've been able to do HDR streaming onto other PCs, and I think onto Mac and onto mobile.
Now we've got
And
Linux support, so
yeah,
that's
but
why
now
now we can.
it's on Linux. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like I said earlier, there were nightly builds where people were like, "This doesn't work," or "This isn't turned on," and people were testing it, but it never made it into the stable release, basically.
So yeah, now that we've got the new version is 6.0.0, that's the major headline, right? Is a Steam Deck and any other HDR capable Linux system can now take advantage of the new renderer.
Yes, yes, which I'm excited about. I don't know if you got that from the from the beginning of this, but
Is
So
that
it's funny.
primarily how you play your Steam Deck these days? You mainly stream to it?
yes, I guess it depends what I'm playing, really. If I'm playing something that doesn't need it, so like recently I've been playing, I don't know, Animal Well, Hades 2 doesn't really need it, but when I'm like, oh, I'll check Hellblade out, that's streaming to it. Or when Elden Ring comes out, oh no, because I'm playing that on PS5, ignore me. Well, anyway, whatever the next, I was playing a lot of
I
Dragon's
mean,
Dogma 2.
you could still stream it, right? Like you
I
could stream it
could.
from your PlayStation to
Oh,
your Steam Deck.
I could. You are correct. Yeah, yeah, and that has HDR as well. That already has that built in. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It does.
Uh,
you could do
the
that.
when I was playing Dragon's Dogma, for example, like that's a big, meaty, open world RPG. I wanted to play that, sat down in front of the television, 50 inches directly in front of my face. And that's 50 different people, by the way. And then I want that to, and I wanted to get the full experience of that. And I could only do that without having to sacrifice like all sorts of things. And I was running it at maximum settings, like, I was getting 60 FPS because my computer is actually capable of that. I was getting all the ray tracing, all of that lovely stuff. Wasn't getting HDR, obviously, but I was getting the rest of it. And I can only do that via streaming, unless I wanted to run what I did like before. I realized this was good, which is running like a 50-meter HDMI cable
Yeah,
across my
yeah.
landing, down my stairs, across, and then another 50-meter USB adapter all the way down the thing, all the way down the stairs for the controller. This is just a better solution for me, and it means I can play it in the bedroom. I can be playing these games like the Alan Wake 2, for example. I was playing that streamed in my bedroom, before bed, getting some spookies in before I go to sleep. That's only capable using. And I'm sure I've talked endlessly about this on this show, but I do think it like just completes the experience for me as someone who owns a gaming PC to not only have it's like playing the games on the go, but also like it's a portal into whoops, yeah, just into my full fat PC experience. But yeah, banger.
And why? What was the choice for you in picking Moonlight and Sunshine over Steam Link?
One, Steam Link never worked for me. Just has never worked for me. I boot up a game using Steam Link. Originally, when I was trying to do it over Wi-Fi, the computer was just like, I just don't have the connection for that. Then when I was able to sort of get a janky like power line connection that didn't really work very well. Again, didn't work. When I actually got the full Ethernet in and I was like, okay, let's do Steam Link, it just wouldn't work. And there were games that I would try and run that maybe had a launcher that just wouldn't work. If I tried to run Jedi Fallen Order or I tried to run Jedi Survivor or Dead Space, they wouldn't work. Alan Wake 2 wouldn't work. And uh, also, yeah, I just couldn't do it. If I was to add these games in as third-party Steam games, it wouldn't work. But what I can do in Moonlight and Sunshine is just add that exe, a command, run this exe, run this shortcut from a folder of shortcuts I've got. You click on the game in Moonlight or Sunshine, or I go into uh, the Steam sort of big picture mode way. You click on that, and instead of having to go through Steam, okay, cool, yeah, I'm booting up a launcher. It's just as if you've clicked a shortcut on your desktop and it boots it up. And that for me was just a way simpler, foolproof way of doing it, where I didn't have to worry about the input lag that came with Steam Link and it just not working, for certain things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. I had a decent experience with Steam Link, but it's been a while since I used it. That
I'm
was
sure if you're paying just Steam stuff, it's probably fine. And there
yeah.
were, Yeah, but it was when I was trying to play anything else, or even sometimes when I was trying to play like Tunic or whatever, it just wouldn't work, and I just wasn't having. I was like, "Is this really going to work for me?" And then when I tried first time I tried Moonlight and Sunshine, I was like, "Oh, this just works, and it works really well, and I'm having zero issues." My first game I booted up on it was Dead Space, and I was stood in my kitchen playing Dead Space over Wi-Fi at 60 FPS, like the best settings I could get it at the time, and I was like, "Wow, like this works and it's really good." And in fact, that is what made me because when I moved, Mario Wonder had just come out, Spider-Man 2 had just come out, and I spent a lot of time playing those. And my Steam Deck actually was just dead, sitting in a drawer. Um, or because I just moved, it was all in boxes and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll dust this off because it might be a way for me to get my PC games downstairs again. And then when I worked out the streaming, I was like, "Oh, okay, now I just only play on my Steam Deck, and now I only play on my Steam Deck and PC." So,
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's a great option for a lot of people, and
mhm.
I'm glad that it's finally got HDR support. I didn't realize it hadn't had it, to be honest, because I know Chiaki added it in pretty much immediately after the Steam Deck
Yeah.
OLED dropped. It was like, oh, well, then we'll
Yeah,
chuck
I
this in.
don't know what's taken them so long because it's one of those things that I like every now and again I check. Every now and again, I'm just like, I'll just pop on GitHub and just see like if you see
Yeah,
any of the recent releases, or I'll just search HDR on the Reddit and see what comes up. And a lot of times people going, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get this to work." I'm like, "Oh cool," and then they go, "I'm on a PC," and you're like, "Right, well that's not for me." But yeah, we're here.
I'm really happy for you, man. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you very
One
much.
other one other thing I noticed in the patch notes that I thought was interesting was that it says initiating a stream via the command line will now automatically wake the target machine if it's sleeping. So does that mean you could do that remotely?
Yeah, so you can when you set up like a stream, you can you set like a command basically to add an app or add a program. You have like you give it a name, you give it an image, and then there's not like you point to something. It's like you can run a command. So my command would be just like uh, you know cmd.exe slash, then I'll add in like the location of my thing. That's the way
Right.
I've gone to do it because that's the way I sort of would learn to do it online. Um, so yeah, that's how you can do it. And I assume what this means is that it does, when you start the stream, I don't know,
It'll
actually, I don't know. It could be maybe you don't even need, to initiate the stream via um,
it
the
says
GUI,
when
you
you're
know?
initiating it via the command line. So it sounds to me like you'd put in the command line and then it would like, if your PC was in sleep mode, it could theoretically wake it now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it could do that anyway, but with like when you sort of connect to the PC, like if you have Wake on LAN turned on, as long as you've got the port forwarding, which Sunshine does it automatically, by the way. You click a button and it's just like, oh yeah, here's all the ports open and ready and sorted out. So that does
Hmm.
work. I think maybe it's when you're like initiating the stream that it does it. I'm actually not 100% sure what it means by the command line because I've never used it other than just like I set the command when I hit when I add the game, you know. I don't think there's anything people are gonna run into. I think a lot of these things here um, are maybe just the developers. You never know.
Fair enough. All right. So I want to jump into a question we got here to wrap things up for the day. We got a question from the Steam docket. This one comes from Shitty Foo over on the Discord, who wrote in a couple weeks ago, said, inspired by Steve's satisfying fuck achievements, their shit paraphrase from Flip Screen. Do y'all have any
all right.
recommendations for games that feel like reading a book? I.e., anything narrative driven that you can play on your couch and coast through while enjoying the story. Real quick, yes, I've got some recommendations. B, I'm so interested how that comment inspired this question,
I
but
was
fair
just
enough.
thinking that I'd missed like there's like a this conversation started with this but ended with I just like to play the narrative, blah blah blah. But I don't know.
And maybe Steve said something like that, and we're just forgetting the whole context of it. But I was like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah,
Like,
it was ages ago now, so we've not had time to answer questions for a good while. So
yeah.
sorry.
Well, and this was we did like a question episode. We had a couple left in the grab bag, so I wanted to get to at least one of them today.
Hmm.
So yeah, so let's talk about this one. Games that feel like reading a book. I think it depends on how deep you want to go into that, because there are obviously plenty of games that are more
Visual
narrative.
novels.
Yeah, right, right. Like visual novels are just straight up what you're describing, right? But I think if you're willing to kind of widen that conversation a little bit, right? And you're wanting something that's more oriented than it is gameplay oriented, then I probably have a lot more answers for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's how literal you want to take it, but I think if you already know about visual novels and you know what kind of things you like reading, you can probably find those visual novels. Pretty much every genre is catered for, but I really like things like Night in the Woods or Inside, those kind of games, which are maybe a little bit more puzzly. There are some gameplay elements in it, but they're low stakes. That you're not going to die really or anything in those games. You can just, if you do, you restart that one section over again. I can't remember what the name of that game was, Pete, that I really liked last year. Remember the
American
like crewman
Arcadia.
shit? Yeah, American Arcadia was kind of like that. There is a little bit more gameplay in that rather than you just kind of reading a book and coasting on the sofa.
Yeah.
But
But it is
stuff,
more like story than it is it's like
yeah,
light puzzle solving, it's a little bit of platforming, it's not
Mhm.
anything like crazy.
yeah, I do love a good puzzle platformers. I think that's like kind of
The
common name for that genre.
the first one that came to mind for me, is has gotta be Disco Elysium, just for,
Mhm.
like, the
Mm,
script of it too. Like, it is not only, like, a very story-dense game, that I think you can kinda, like, you know, really immerse yourself in, but its script is insane. Like, it's so well written, and it's so deep and, like, uh really, really influenced by your actions, right? Like the kind of character you build, the choices that you make really influence the story and where it goes. And I think that, you can have a really like wide array of experiences. Like I played a character that was high intelligence and like high emotional intelligence, right? So and then like that led to having like a lot of internal dialogue and a lot of like rumination and a lot of exploring his past and like getting into the relationship with the partner. But then also like when we streamed it, Steve, right? It's like you could just be a total like nut job and there's like the hobo cop
yeah.
thing
Or
where
you
it's
could
like
be
you can
so
just
unfit that you die within the like first 2 minutes of the game because you're
right,
stretched
yeah.
and you have a heart attack to try and get your tie or whatever it is off the ceiling fan and you can't do it.
And it's like, I think with all that, like it's definitely something that like really, really I think accentuates like the unique ways that video games can tell stories in interesting ways, and like challenging the kind of confines of like telling a story in that medium in a way that's really, really satisfying.
Yeah, I think What Remains of Edith Finch and Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, I like those games as well. Similarly, I think they do a good job of using the medium well. Florence has been on my list forever. Still not
Oh,
played it.
I love Florence. Florence
Um,
is so good. That's like a comic. That's very much like playing a comic.
so I very much want to play that. And I think in terms of like visual novels, Dream Daddy, my favorite visual
Hmm.
novel. I love it
Dream
so
Daddy
much.
is so good. Yeah, it's really good. And
The
it's where
original
I
stream.
and it's where I yeah, it's true. It's I discovered my, like, favorite band. Pup is I discovered them from that game, so I will always have a special place in my heart for that reason. Um, I think another, like, couple of games that come to mind for me, like, in this ilk are the good, Telltale games. I think, like, kinda hit this vibe where it's like, it is very much like the most basic kind of point and click type gameplay and then making narrative decisions and like dealing with those ramifications. Um I never got through the last season, but particularly the first two seasons of their Walking Dead series definitely stick out to me as being like worth exploring and going back to. I actually replayed the first one a year or two ago and it holds up really well and another one that has a really good script and I mean, it's kind of a downer, but it's good. And then similarly, same kind of game would be the Life is Strange series is another one that I really like. Another again like very narrative
Oh,
oriented.
and what was the other one they did? I really
Tell
liked
me
that.
why.
Tell
That
Me
was
Why was great.
uh
And it's usually free for Pride Month. Is it free?
oh, it probably is free right now, right? Yeah.
It's free right now for Pride Month. Go
Hell
play
yeah.
Tell
Go
Me
and
Why.
grab it. Right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that
quickly because I'm so no, go on, Joy. You finish your point
I was
before I
just gonna
start.
say that game is really, really good. And it's also on Game Pass is another place you can play it. If you've got Game Pass. And Yeah, like those games I think are really, really great, and particularly Tell Me Why is like very short. Like that's a game you could get through in a weekend and have a really, really great, meaningful experience with. One last game I want to call out in that style, I guess two, would be Until Dawn, which is about to come to PC. That's about to get its port, which is super exciting. And then the one that they put out like a year or two ago was
The Quarry,
The
Pete. The
Quarry, thank
Quarry.
you. I was, like, trying I couldn't remember the name, and I'm like, "I can't describe it without spoiling it." I was like,
You could have said the one at the summer camp, and people would have known what you meant.
It's both, they're both." Well, I guess that one's at a camp, it's your friend's house, whatever. There's the
Hmm.
summer ones. That game I think is also really great, and, Until Dawn is, like, an absolute classic. So those are both, ones I would highly recommend in that same kind of vibe, where it's like, you just kinda get to sit back and make some light narrative choices and hopefully not fuck up a couple quick time events and get somebody killed.
Every time I play with my dad, he does that and gets my character
Hmm.
killed. Not so happy about that.
So for me, I find Telltale games to be incredibly boring, and I've bought like 3 of them, and every time I get like 10 minutes in, I'm like, "Oh, is this the game?" So I just don't play, right? I just don't vibe with I don't like making fucking narrative like, I don't like when it gives me 3 options for what I can say to a character. I'm like, I don't care. Just let me do things." Anyway, what I do how I've
I
interpreted
don't
this.
like story is what Max is
No,
saying,
no,
and in a
no,
question
I like
about answering about
Mm,
stories, but okay.
well, no, the way I am, the way I've interpreted this is like you can sort of like there's a narrative to it. You can kick back and play on the couch and sort of coast through, blah blah blah. So I'm thinking low friction. I'm thinking low like fail rate. I'm thinking like you're not banging your head against or getting frustrated or solving too difficult puzzles or anything like that. So I'm thinking like experiences like quite short, quite like bite sized, but not like one and done like in 10 minutes things. I'm thinking like Gree. That's like a sort of it tells a narrative through its visuals, through its colors. There's some light puzzle involved.
Kind of like
It's just like a visual
experiential.
experience. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking things like Katana Zero, which, there is a tiny bit of friction in that, like, you do it, you die, but it tells a story in a very interesting way, in a very unique way. Um, Maybe even stuff like Undertale, where it's like
Mm.
it's there's like the story is it, and then you play through it multiple times to sort of get through that story while still having a game there, while still having fun, still doing things like that. Um, there was one more, I've lost it now on the
Undertale gets
page.
tough near the end for sure, though.
Yeah, it does, yeah, it depends how you play
You
it
should
though, I
play it,
guess.
though, don't get me
Just kill
wrong.
Depends how
everyone.
you
Just
play
kill
it.
everyone. It's easy.
Yeah.
First of all,
Um,
no, don't do that. Second of all, it's not easy. The hardest boss in the game is on that run.
I also like escape room games. They're always good fun. They're
mhm,
easy if you just want to like turn just kind of dip into a puzzle. It's not really necessarily like a book. But I really think like point and click adventure games probably belong in this category as well, like Monkey Island and Broken
yeah,
Sword.
they're boring as
Um,
well.
Thimbleweed Park is
This fucking
fantastic.
guy.
Max has no taste.
I
It's
know what I
fine.
like,
I only
I know
wanna
what I
run back
like.
and forth aimlessly if it's a Metroidvania.
I know what I like, and I like what I know, and also, I'm literally the number 1 tastemaker of this show, Steve, so put that
Number
eat your
two
eat your
tastemaker
cake.
now. Pete's always number three.
Well, this was a good show.
Oh,
This was a fun
okay.
show.
All right. Yeah, I'm number 3. How many games you played this year, Steve?
Lots of games, but mostly old ones.
Mostly Hitman.
Yeah.
Look, when they make a game better than Hitman, Steve will stop playing it. That's the problem.
Exactly. When 007 comes out, I'll play that. Come on, IO.
Awesome. Any other ones we want to call out?
No,
I
I
think
don't
I'm
I don't think so. I really think it depends on what type of story you wanna play, should it feel, what type of game, or how deep you wanna kind of go into that storybook style. If you wanna play like a book, visual novels exist, and you should probably seek those out, and there's a lot of styles and a lot of, genres catered for there, but otherwise, go check out some low
Oh!
stakes chill games.
Okay, I got one more. Because I'm like, I haven't played that many visual novels, and I think I've mentioned all the ones that I know. Danganronpa, that's another one.
Oh,
Those
that's a
games
good
are
one,
cool.
yeah,
A
the
mystery adventure kinda thing.
yeah, and the non-retail games are good as well, like Zero Escape. That's a really good series as well. And Doki Doki Panic Club is
Yeah.
always good,
Oh,
right?
and you
Yeah.
know what? I would say, like, it's not it's also a turn-based RPG, but, like, Persona has a lot of reading and a lot of
Can
downtime where
also be
you're
pretty difficult at times,
Right.
though. Like, if
yeah, but you
you
can play it on easy,
you can yeah, I think there is a story mode on that, right?
maybe,
Like,
but even
where
if not,
basically the battles are auto.
yeah, but, like, on easy mode, like, you'll be fine, you know? And those are all games that are, like, very story heavy, that have a ton of dialogue, a ton of, um, cutscenes, and, there's so much reading and chilling.
Oh, I'm so bored. I'm already bored. I don't know what game you're talking about anymore, and I hate it.
This fucking guy. All right, gang, we're gonna wrap it up there for today. If you want to write in with your thoughts on the Zotac Zone, if you want to write in with the game you're most excited about to play with HDR support on Moonlight, or if you want to write in and say what your favorite narrative-driven games are, you can do all that and much more. Again, by heading to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to all the places we are all over the web. You can write into the show. You can join the Discord and keep the conversation rolling between episodes. You can go and check out our sister shows, Nintendo Noise and the Flip Screen Games podcast. Or if you want to go above and beyond, you can head over to the Patreon and become a backer where you can get the show early and get a bunch of other cool perks and goodies. And of course, show your support for the show and keep the mics and the lights hot. Great episode today, guys. You nailed it.
Thanks, Pete. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man. Yeah. I did
Yep.
an awful lot of saying opinions as facts today. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you love that.
That is basically what this podcast is.
That's what
It's
being a tastemaker is,
That's it. Yeah, you just make other people believe your bullshit.
You should have been a politician. Are you standing in the general election, Max?
I thought you were going to say, am I standing now? Do you think I'm 4'10"? No,
He's got
no,
the
I'm
hair
not.
for it,
Yeah, I've got politician's hair.
Just do the politician hand thing where you're not pointing. You'll be
Actually,
fine.
now I'm doing the Phil Spencer. Have you seen that Phil Spencer? He just plays a little drum every time he makes a point.
Is it like Martin with the piano?
Yeah. He's like, boom, boom.
the best year in Xbox history.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, go check out the Flip Screen Games podcast this week. We're doing all kinds of Summer Game Fest coverage. So if you want to hear us make fun of Phil Spencer and Jeff Keighley and stuff, go check that out. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steam Deck podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. All the way over there has been Max. Take care, everybody.